Only 3 years ago, for NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year and a Pro Bowler as a fifth-round pick. Could he be on his way out before the end of his rookie contract? We're going to be diving into the latest reports coming out of NFL Network coming up next here on our Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Glad to be joined, as always, by my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And a special thanks to each and every one of the 12s tuning in, whether you're listening in from Issaquah, Washington, or across the state border in Moscow, Idaho. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. The Seahawks on Thursday night going to 3-1, had to hold on for dear life at the very end for a 23-20 victory over the Cardinals in Glendale. We're going to be sharing our Monday musings a few days after the contest. We both had a chance to watch the All-22. Going to dive into some thoughts coming out of that game. And we're going to check out the latest in the NFC West. The Seahawks getting some help today from their friends down in Jacksonville. They won't be friends in a couple weeks, but getting some help from their friends in Jacksonville. We'll break down where the standings sit currently in the NFC West. Going to be a jam-packed episode. So without further ado, let's get to it. Now for your lead story here on our Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Riq Woolen, since coming into the NFL as a fifth-round pick out of Texas San Antonio, has been one of the NFL's probably biggest enigmas. On one hand, he has the best athletic tool set that you could argue for at any position. 6'4", long arms, sub 4.3 speed, former receiver with great ball skills, was a Defensive Rookie of the Year finalist and a Pro Bowler as a rookie, but he's also been benched 3 straight seasons at some point during the year, that being now the latest. Josh Jobe surpassing him for reps, getting taken out of games. And it's just been a fourth season with more frustrating inconsistencies from Riq Woolen. So maybe it shouldn't be a surprise, the report that dropped from Ian Rapoport of NFL Network today. He reported this on X. With Seahawks star Devin Witherspoon returning on Thursday, teams are monitoring Pro Bowl cornerback Riq Woolen as a possible trade target by the deadline, sources tell the insiders. Woolen's playing time is diminished, and in a contract year, teams believe he could be available. This time of year, Rob, you always have to kind of read through the tea leaves, particularly when it comes to trade deadline talk in week 5. We are still very early in the process, actually still week 4, but week 5 for the Seahawks once we shift away from these games that wrap up on Sunday. But you look at the situation for Seattle, Riq Woolen has had a really frustrating season. I could argue this has maybe been his least productive season that he's had in Seattle for these first 4 games in terms of no interceptions, hasn't had the pass breakups, still inconsistent as a tackler, and he's had a number of crucial penalties, had 2 big ones that allowed the Cardinals to get back in the game on Thursday night in Glendale. So this feels like, to me, it just seems like this is the case. The Seahawks are putting some information out there to see if they can get some teams interested, because Josh Jobe has clearly taken the other starting spot when Seattle's got 2 corners on the field. They're going to get Nicky Manwari back. From my understanding, they believe for the Tampa Bay game that he's going to be ready to go. So you're going to have your safeties at full strength. I just don't know where Riq Woolen fits in. And Seattle believes that Shaquille Griffin or Nehemiah Pritchett can come in and play at a high level in this defense. I'm wondering if this truly is a case. John Schneider is trying to put some feelers out there behind the scenes and see if they can get a mid-round draft pick for a very talented yet inconsistent player who maybe is looking for a change of scenery at this point.
Yeah, Corbin, I agree with you. I think we share the kind of the same instincts on the where this report might be coming from. I have no doubt that Ian Rapoport has lots of sources throughout the NFL, but I do believe strongly that among his sources is John Schneider, and I think this is the Seahawks setting out some feelers to see if there are any NFL teams out there that might be willing to trade either a player or a future 2026 likely draft selection to acquire the services of Tariq Woolen, 26 years old, and as you said, he's got the most impressive physical traits, perhaps, of any cornerback in all of the NFL. He has been a player, obviously, who anybody who has watched the Seahawks for the last several years knows the ups and downs of Riq Woolen are about as frustrating as it gets. At the same time, this is still a very talented cornerback and not somebody that I think that you want to just kind of give up for, let's say, a 6th or 7th round draft pick. And so if John Schneider or any of his scouts happen to be listening to today's show, I would caution trading a player of this talent. Now, I think that there's a possibility that Seattle may wind up losing Riq Woolen in free agency after this season. Just because, as you said, he's in the final year of his rookie contract. I think that there is going to be some teams out there who might be willing to throw some significant dollars at him. And I'm not so sure that Seattle is going to be one of those teams. But at the same time, I also think that, again, I think it's difficult sometimes for, at least for fans, not necessarily somebody who watches the All 22 like yourself, to appreciate what Riq Woolen does. I'm just going to throw out some numbers here that I think might be, kind of calm some people down out there who think that it's just, Riq Woolen is terrible and that Josh Jobe and Devin Witherspoon are wonderful and that, that the Seahawks should just absolutely trade him. If they can get a bag of football for him, a bag of footballs for him, then they should have done that yesterday. The reality is, Corbin, is that Riq Woolen, at least, and these are all statistics from Pro Football Focus, but he has 182 snaps in coverage so far this season. He has been targeted over 182 times. He's been targeted 18 times. He's allowed a total of 10 receptions. He has 6 penalties, as you acknowledge, 3 of which were called in this last game against the Arizona Cardinals. But at the same time, Josh Jobe has 4 penalties, and he has been targeted significantly, less times. Josh Jobe, just to go back to the Cardinals game, for example, the Cardinals game, Riq Woolen was targeted 8 times. And he allowed 1 reception. He was targeted 7 times. He allowed 1 reception. Now, again, he had those 3 penalties, so you certainly have to acknowledge that. But, let's just kind of focus on Devin Witherspoon for a moment here. Witherspoon was targeted 8 times. He allowed 8 receptions. 5 of those went for first downs. 2 of them went for the Cardinals' only 2 touchdowns of the football game. Josh Jobe was targeted 11 times. He allowed 7 catches and 4 first downs. So the reason why Riq Woolen is on the field is because Riq Woolen continues to be Seattle's best and most gifted, albeit most inconsistent, cover corner. I mean, that's not my opinion. That's what the numbers say as well. So again, this is a talented corner, and I would push back on the idea that Seattle has like this great depth at the cornerback spot. If Shaquille Griffin was so damn good, somebody else would have brought him in. If Josh Jobe, if the Seahawks felt so convinced that Josh Jobe was a superstar, they wouldn't have brought him in back on a 1-year deal. And then otherwise, you have like Shamar Jean-Charles, Nehemiah Pritchett in his 1 career start, Darion Kendrick, who of course got released by the divisional rivals Los Angeles Rams in training camp. So again, Seattle's got decent depth at the cornerback spot, but to me, it reminds me a little bit of a year ago when Seattle traded Mike Jackson and then struggled with depth at the cornerback spot. So I think that the Seahawks will be better suited in trying to coach up Riq Woolen and trying to just get some of the big plays that he is going to get once he locates the football a little bit better. I know it's frustrating, but I still think this is too talented of a player to give away unless you can convince a Pete Carroll or somebody like that to give you at minimum 3rd-round draft pick for a talented cornerback like Riq Woolen.
And that's where you and I agree. I think if you had a team that was dangling a 3rd or 4th round pick out there, probably a 3rd is what I'd be looking for. I don't know if you can get that for a guy that's on an expiring contract that's been as inconsistent, albeit with really high highs, like Riq Woolen has had. I do wonder if the fact that you're looking at the possibility of him returning, getting slimmer, it seems to me like that's kind of the perception right now, is that him coming back to Seattle, it seems less and less likely. Do you at that point try to float him out there and see, and maybe it isn't for a draft pick. Maybe you're like, look, we want to add another guy to this offense that's going to help us take this offense to another level. Maybe we bring in another receiver, or maybe there's another tight end out there they're interested in. I'm just throwing some examples out there. Or maybe they have a chance to bring in another edge or a defensive lineman. Like, there could be a piece they want where instead of having to give up draft picks for the future, they can send a guy with an expiring contract. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I expect that it is going to happen, but I do know one team that I would be calling. If you really were wanting to dangle Riq Woolen, I'd be calling the Baltimore Ravens, because right now they can't stop anybody in the passing game. So there's some familiarity there with Mike Macdonald. If Macdonald feels like he has other options he'd rather play at this point, maybe they call Eric DaCosta and see if they can swing something. But at this point, I still think that this is probably some posturing here, and it could be from the agent. It could be from the Seahawks, and there might be some stuff going on behind the scenes because Riq Woolen doesn't want to lose reps, and Mike Macdonald's starting to take some of them from him. He's got to play with more consistency, and they've tried to give him some warnings with that lack of playing time. Maybe it's resonating, maybe it isn't, but it does feel like there's some barbing going back and forth between the team and the player here. And I'm curious to see if this does lead to something happening, or if Riq Woolen and the Seahawks are able to keep things together and maybe they still talk about an extension. It feels like all options are still very much on the table, and there's a lot of season left to play for him to play to his potential. But the coaches have got to get more consistency out of him. He's got to do his job when he's on the field. When we come back, the Seahawks move to 3-1 in Glendale on Thursday Night Football. We've got some deep Monday musings coming your way up next here on Locked On Seahawks. This episode is brought your way by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute, and the best part, Prize Picks just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their passing yards, rushing yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. And the new injury reboot feature, if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's the code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. This episode's also brought your way by Rougiette. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? That's called confidence, pure confidence. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiette Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. Welcome back to the Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm Corbin Smith. He's Rob Rang. A special thanks to each and every one of the 12s tuning in. And thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. The Seahawks now have won 3 consecutive games, though it certainly ended up being more difficult in the end than it probably needed to be in Arizona. They were up 14 points in the fourth quarter. The Cardinals come storming back. Luckily, Jason Myers, after Sam Darnold and Jack Smith-Njigba worked their magic again, nails a game-winning field goal as time expires. The Seahawks escape with a 23-20 victory at State Farm Stadium. Let's get to our Monday musings, shall we? And Rob, I want to give you the mic here first, because I know there is a position group in particular coming out of this game that you felt like was crucial to Seattle's victory here and being able to maintain a big lead for a good chunk of this football game.
Yeah, I think that would be, and I appreciate that, certainly. I think that it would be easy to focus on the quarterbacks. I think it was very obvious who the better of the two quarterbacks were. The guy who's bounced around with 5 different NFL franchises here in Sam Darnold, and of course the number 1 overall selection, Kyler Murray. And Sam Darnold was just so much better. It was just painfully obvious. But I think a positional group that is not getting enough attention, enough respect for the critical role that they played in this victory for the Seahawks is the tight end group. Obviously, if you watch the game, then you know that A.J. Bonner caught a touchdown in the game. You also maybe acknowledge the reception from Elijah Arroyo, where as a rookie, that he recognized the fact that he had an edge rusher in Josh Sweat, a 265-pounder at that was covering him, and that he put his arm up, went down the sideline. Sam Darnold noticed him, trusted that rookie tight end to throw the ball. You got to give Josh Sweat credit. He was actually in pretty good position, but Arroyo made the play. So again, just the recognition as well as the athletic ability, the soft hands that we've seen from Seattle's prize second-round selection. So those two players, I think, certainly deserve a lot of credit. But I would also mention Eric Saubert. Now, he has been providing quality run blocking at the tight end position as well. In this particular game, Corbin, he was easily, at least in my opinion, Seattle's absolute best special teams performer, including the kicker, Jason Myers, and his game-winning field goal. And again, citing PFF numbers, Saubert was Seattle's top-rated special teams performer. His blocking, his tackling, he was spectacular in this football game. And this wasn't a great performance by Seattle special teams. And it comes off the heels of a record-breaking performance against the New Orleans Saints in that blowout home victory a week before. So again, I think that Sauerbert's ability on special teams, the fact that he was very heads up in getting that fumble recovery of Sam Darnold, people forget, that was the very first snap from scrimmage of the second half. Where Sam Darnold fumbles the ball, Sauerbert is jogging on the spot, recovers it. That ball was recovered at the 33-yard line, Seattle's 33-yard line. If Arizona gets that ball, then of course they're very much in position to at least kick a field goal and narrow that lead. Instead, Seattle recovers, marches down the field, and winds up kicking a Jason Myers field goal to extend their lead. So again, I think that Seattle's tight ends played a critical role in Seattle's victory.
I want to go to the backfield, and it's not just because I'm the running back guy and it's the position that I love talking about the most. I think when you look at this football game and where the Seahawks offense is at right now, they ran the football effectively for the most part in this game. I thought it was a big step forward from what we saw against New Orleans, but we got a front row seat to the entire Ken Walker III experience. And unfortunately, that is both good and bad. It's the roller coaster that's got a lot of really exciting stretches. It's also got some really difficult loops that you have to go through that aren't going to be up to speed for everybody. And there's also a penalty added in on top of that, which is very unlike Ken Walker III. That's not the way that he operates. But that taunting penalty that was called on him in the second quarter, it ended up being massive because Seattle had 3rd and 3 at the end of a run play by him, and he didn't break any tackles, and he got busted for taunting and throwing a football. Like, you can't do that. That was the type of lack of discipline we have not seen from him in the past. That has not been an issue for him in terms of losing his cool on the field. But it turned a 3rd and 3 play into 3rd and 18. And then they had to run a screen, and it got stuffed for 4 yards in the backfield. They're suddenly out of field goal range, and Michael Dixon has to punt. Like, those 3 points they should have gotten minimum there. I mean, 3rd and 3 easily could have got a first down on the next play. 3rd and 18, good luck getting a first down on that. It put Seattle way behind the 8 ball there. That was a massive mistake. And late in the game, when the Cardinals made their run, those 3 missing points stood out a ton at the end of the game. And then you add in the fact that Walker obviously had a great game in terms of explosives. He had a 29-yard catch in the first drive that he tiptoed down the sideline and showed off his explosiveness, had a couple 20-plus yard runs, had another 19-yard run. The burst is there, the explosiveness, all those exciting plays are there. The problem is there's still way too many runs where the back is trying to play hero ball, and he's not taking the yardage that's in front of him, and he's turning what should have been maybe a 1-yard loss into a 5 or 6 yard loss, trying to do too much. And it ends up hurting the team, not just with his stats, but you go from having 1st and 10 to 2nd and 16 like they had on one play in this game. And I know the blocking wasn't great, but like, you should not have a 6-yard loss. He ended up trying to bounce the run, and he ended up losing extra yardage. That kind of stuff in year 4 should not be happening at the sheer number, the volume that it does with Ken Walker III. So I think he had that penalty, a couple of those really bad negative runs. You want to see Ken Walker just take what the defense is giving him more often. And that's something we've been saying for a couple of years, but it feels like that was the biggest negative on offense for me. We saw those flashes, but there's still so many plays there that are putting Seattle way behind the sticks. Then you had that taunting penalty. I thought it was a very up and down game for K9.
No, I agree with you. There's such a feast and famine element to his game. And it actually is kind of the perfect segue, because that's exactly what Seattle used, was a feast and famine, kind of a high blitz approach to get pressure on Kyler Murray in this particular football game. And longtime Locked On Seahawks listeners and viewers, and as Corbin often says, thank you so very much to all of you. But if you remember, as we broke down this game as far as our matchup Tuesday, that we had that week, just because, of course, it was a Thursday game. I was really interested to see how Mike Macdonald might try to create pressure on Kyler Murray, because we all know that if you rush him upfield and he starts to scramble, what a dynamic athlete he can be. But at the same time, Seattle did absolutely turn up the pressure in this football game. Now, hey, without trying to throw too many stones here, I thought that the game coverage, as far as the television announcers, were so busy talking about former Ohio State Buckeye Marvin Harrison Jr. and his whole thing that they didn't talk about it much. They kind of just focused on the fact that Seattle used a 4-man rush, and they were so effective, and they were. But the reality is that Seattle got 6 sacks in this particular football game, and half of them came on blitzes. They got at least a half a sack from the 2 corners, Josh Jobe and Devin Witherspoon, as well as the linebackers, Drake Thomas and Ernest Jones IV. So obviously there's some blitzing going on, because those players are typically not rushing the quarterback. And so again, I thought that it was brilliant play calling by Mike Macdonald and execution by Seattle's defense. Obviously the Cardinals were able to come back and make it into a game, a very tight game at the very end. If Jason Myers kicks the field goal and makes the field goal earlier, then it's not nearly as tight. Obviously, if there's not some of the penalties, including the one you mentioned before, Kenneth Walker III, and obviously the dubious penalties that were Riq Woolen down the stretch, made this game tighter. But I thought that, again, in part because of the tight end play, as I mentioned before, and McDonald's frankly genius in how he approached a very dangerous quarterback in Kyler Murray, who basically had nothing to lose, just throwing the ball from his hip essentially in the second half of this game. I think we see how flexed and prove that this 8-game winning streak against the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray specifically is very much for real.
And I think we also got to give a shout out to the edge guys, because they had not, as a group, recorded a sack in the first 3 games. But that was misleading to an extent. And you talked about it with Boye Mafe, who we still have not seen get a sack, but he was disruptive in this football game. Uchenna Nwosu, I don't know what it is about State Farm Stadium. That guy just loves playing there. And I know he's been hurt the last couple of times, wasn't able to suit up, but 2022, he had a multi-sack game against Kyler Murray. He loves going after the former number 1 overall pick. His first multi-sack game since that breakout year in 2022. So we got to see Nwosu get going. DeMarcus Lawrence, I know he exited with an injury, but he had a phenomenal play where he strung Kyler Murray out on a scramble on 3rd down. And 33 years old, he looked like he was 21 on that play, with the way that he was able to run him down and force Kyler Murray into a couple other pursuing defenders. Wasn't able to turn upfield. Punt for Arizona. And there was also another play that Derek Hall made on the opening possession that most of the time Kyler Murray is going to turn on the Jets and he's got a 10-plus yard gain. Derek Hall chased him down from behind and tackled him for a 2-yard gain. And it just showed the athleticism and the instincts that Derek Hall plays with. I thought the edge defenders played outstanding football in this game. And that's a testament to those guys, because I think that is the hardest position to play when you're going against a mobile quarterback, because you have to be both aggressive and guarded at the same time rushing, because you don't want to give these athletic quarterbacks rushing lanes. And really the only one Kyler Murray had the entire game was because of a stunt that was ran up front in the interior. The edge guys did a phenomenal job of not letting him get outside the pocket. And when he did, they chased him down and he wasn't able to do much damage. They forced some ugly incompletions. They forced an interception with one of those plays. I thought the edge guys were maybe the most impressive group for the Seahawks on the entire field, on offense and defense in this game. Again, it's testament to those guys following the game plan, but also executing, because that is really difficult to go against a guy like Kyler Murray, one of the few quarterbacks that you have to do this, where you just have to be so careful with how aggressive you really are and giving him those pass rushing lanes. When we come back, hey, folks, it's week 5. It's time to shift our focus to the NFC West, because the playoff race, I know it's early, but it's starting to shape up, and there's a lot to talk about with what went down within this division. Some interesting plays in a number of games for NFC West foes. We're going to check out what's going on in the division and where the Seahawks currently stack up, plus updated playoff odds from our friends over at FanDuel. That'll be coming up next here on our Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks. This episode is brought your way by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. And I always reach for my favorite flavor, Hawaiian Breeze, because it's refreshing and gives me that quick lift before a busy day, whether I'm podcasting or writing. Honestly, I love how fast it kicks in. It gets me rolling for my day, and it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get your favorites that you love, or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. The NFL season is officially underway in week 5. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props such as how many touchdowns Jackson Smith and Jigba will score against the Buccaneers, building a same-game parlay with multiple prop bets from the opening week, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the most thrilling way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith. Glad to be joined, as always, by my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And a special thanks to all the 12s who are tuning in. Thank you to the everydayers who make Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. The Seahawks going to be getting back to work on Monday, getting ready to gear up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who came up just short of a valiant comeback effort against the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. Made that game really interesting, but weren't able to quite get over the top and win that game. This is a very good Buccaneers team that was undefeated going into that matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. So Seattle's got a tough game coming up, but they got a little bit of help in the NFC West this weekend, maybe from an unexpected source. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming through and beating the San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers fall from the ranks of the unbeatens. And Rob, look, Jacksonville is going to be a tough game on the road for the Seahawks. I expect that that's going to be a challenging game for them. With that being said, this was kind of that fall back to earth, especially with the injuries that the 49ers are dealing with. This was the kind of loss we were expecting here to come at some point. And I think you get a reflection more of what this team's ceiling with some of the injuries they have is going to be in San Francisco. And certainly it improves the Seahawks' chances of being able to make noise in this division as well.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, I think that, we talked about this before with the San Francisco 49ers. Their top end talent is probably better than any other team in the NFC West. But because they've had to now pay all of that top end talent, then their middle ground, their middle class, so to speak, is just not as deep. And so I do think that there's a possibility that they're going to kind of fall back down to earth, as you mentioned. Oh, by the way, those Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-1. So they're playing good football. So this maybe shouldn't have been a shocking loss, but it was significant. The 49ers did have Brock Purdy back. They were about as healthy as they can possibly be because obviously their defensive superstar, Nick Bosa, he's out for the entire season. But the 49ers right now, 3-1, because, of course, they beat the Seahawks in the first game of the season. They're going to be in first place. But then you have the Seahawks at 3-1, the LA Rams at 3-1, the Arizona Cardinals at 2-2. Because the Seahawks have a 1-1 record in the division, so a 500 winning mark, and the LA Rams have yet to play a divisional foe, then Seattle actually wins the tiebreaker. So if the playoffs were to begin right now, the Seattle Seahawks would own that tiebreaker over the Los Angeles Rams, the exact opposite of what we saw a year ago. Seattle would have the number 5 seed in the playoffs. And it's fascinating because the LA Rams are actually going to be hosting the 49ers on Thursday Night Football this in just a couple of days. So again, Seattle, if they can hold serve and as far as beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Seattle this weekend, then Seattle has an excellent opportunity to be in not just tied for first place, but to move into sole possession of first place.
Well, either way, one of those teams is going to be at 4-1. But if the Rams are the team at 4-1 and Seattle, actually in either case, the Seahawks, I think the highest they could be is second place because the Rams would be 1-0 in the division in that case. So either way, they're going to be in second place. But you got a chance to really create some separation, especially from Arizona. Now, if you look at FanDuel's odds coming out of this week's games, the 49ers actually have the third worst odds of making the postseason right now in this division at -300. The Seahawks at -115 are in second. And then you've got the Rams, obviously, with -290. And then the Cardinals at +260. I guess if you're an aggressive bettor, the Cardinals right now would be the one that you're going to get the biggest win from in terms of that going. But I misread that earlier. But the 49ers are still considered the top team at -300, the Rams at -290, then the Seahawks at -115. I am wondering if we see that start to change, though, even going into this next week's slate of games, now that we've seen some of the injuries, who the 49ers now have lost to, and the fact that the Rams have looked beatable in a couple of their games. I mean, the Colts had them on the ropes today, and unfortunately for one particular player on Indianapolis Colts, blew an opportunity to potentially tie the Rams and have shot to beat them. And the Colts looked very real going in at 3-0. They looked like a team that was worthy of being at the top of their division, but the Rams were able to steal that one by 7. These teams have looked vulnerable. At least they've been beatable. Seattle's got to feel pretty good about where they're at right now, especially I look at the strength of the victories. Like, I know the Saints are winless, but Buffalo was on the ropes going into the fourth quarter. I mean, New Orleans gave Buffalo a dogfight today. They ended up winning by 12, but I mean, New Orleans was right with them. They were exchanging punches. This was a back and forth game. New Orleans was competitive with both the 49ers and the Cardinals earlier too. Like, that blowout for Seattle looks better in my mind based on how those other 3 games have played out. The Saints have been competitive in those other 3 games. Seattle blew them away. Pittsburgh, that win's looking really good now with the win over the Vikings in Ireland today. Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf lighting it up overseas. It just feels like suddenly those wins the Seahawks have had, particularly Pittsburgh and their win in week 3 over New Orleans, especially that Steelers win, you're feeling pretty good because Pittsburgh is now 3-1. And the only game they've been able to slip, I mean, Seattle took care of business in the second half and they were able to get it done. So I think Mike McDonald and his team have to be feeling pretty darn good, especially with this mini bye they get coming out of the Thursday game. They should be fresh going against Tampa Bay. And the division's been set up nicely for them as long as they take care of their business. And they've got some quality wins now that they've stacked up.
No question about it. I mean, look, this is no mirage, folks. This is a Seattle Seahawks team that's pretty damn good, and so I think that people should be getting excited about this. Look, the Seahawks obviously are 3-1. There's two teams in the NFL now that are undefeated. The NFL defending champions, Philadelphia Eagles, and those aforementioned Buffalo Bills. They're 4-0. The only other two teams that are 3-1 that have won 3 games in a row are the Seahawks and the Detroit Lions. And look, I think you can make an argument about point differential at this early point in the season doesn't mean much, but Seattle has the third highest point differential. They're up 44 points. San Francisco is 3-1, has a 5-point differential. Again, Seattle is a very good football team. If they can stay healthy, then this is a team that absolutely is poised for a deep playoff run.
As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Rob at Rob Rang. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. When we come back for our Tuesday show, as we do each and every week, we've got Tell the Truth Tuesday, our final thoughts coming out of the win over the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. And then it is on to the Tampa Bay Bucks. We get to see the creamsicle jerseys come to the Pacific Northwest in the battle of retro uniforms. We'll dive into the 3-1 Bucks and what's new heading into week 5. Make sure that you're listening in and enjoy the rest of your Monday. Go Hawks.